You wouldn't like me when I'm frustrated.
Let's burn through that.
My name's Dax.
My name's Nick.
And welcome to the Call Room, our YouTube rugby chat show.
So, let's get into it, shall we? Starting from game 1 of the last weekend, Hurricanes versus Sharks. Very high scoring affair, 38-37 to the Hurricanes to end it off. It was a very good game of rugby.
It was heartbreaking because the Hurricanes won it at the end, like literally at the end. I mean, the Sharks were yellow carded in that segment, down to 14 men. All they had to do was just defend to close out the game, and then the Hurricanes scored a try, converted, and heartbreak for the Sharks. I mean, they played really well.
They did, but also they were a bit hard done by discipline issues as well. I mean, I don't know if everyone saw the meme, but there's a meme that's like, Sharks player stood on a blade of grass, penalty to the Hurricanes.
Yeah. Officiating wise, it wasn't well governed, or should I say consistent, so it felt a bit like the Sharks were playing against the referee at times. But they did well. They were leading at one point. But again, you got to stick to your guns and close out those type of matches. So unfortunate for the Sharks there, but well done overall.
Yeah. Then Sunwolves versus Waratahs. This was an easy one to pick. Sunwolves, as we all know, are the Whipping Boys of Super Rugby.
Mm-hmm.
So the Waratahs easily won this game. Final score was 29-50. I mean, it was good rugby still. There was some nice running lines, but again, nothing much.
Not much in it. Sunwolves did have some really, really good tries that they really scored. Waratahs got their opportunities and they took them. Obviously, with the team of that caliber, they also turned over a mistake that the Sunwolves made, which led to one of the like a 60-meter try. But Sunwolves still showing that they are competitive, at least. I mean, scoring 29 points against a really top-notch outfit like the Waratahs is no mean feat. So really, really hats off to them. This is just them. I think this is a real good development year for them, maybe. So we'll probably see them be a little bit more competitive next year.
Then we go into the Chiefs versus the Blues. It was a very, very good game in my opinion. Really nail-biting, down to the wire.
Yeah, high-paced as well.
Yeah.
It was an absolute bruiser. I mean, there were some massive hits. Again, a New Zealand derby that you just wanted to watch. I mean, it was a really, really good game. Heartbreak for the Blues again. They were leading up to the end. Chiefs,
story of their lives.
Yeah, Chiefs taking it at the end there. Unfortunately, the Blues are the New Zealand Whipping Boys this season.
Like every season, but
but good on the Chiefs. They gave it their full 80 minutes and they got dividends for it.
And then Australian derby, Brumbies versus Reds. Must say it went the opposite to what we picked. We picked Reds going into this game just because the Brumbies just aren't gelling. And at half time, it looked like we were on track. We were right there. The Reds were ahead, and then they imploded. Yeah,
the Reds did kind of just went backwards.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could sum it up. The Brumbies, I don't know what was said in the dressing room at half time, but they came out like a ball of fire. They took their opportunities, some really solid tries. Having David Pocock back is what getting the Brumbies to gel a little bit better. He's got that leader quality, very lead by the front type of player. He got some really solid turnovers off the ground. I mean, the Brumbies did show that they were a better class than how they started the match.
And then we can go on to this game. I've deliberately made us go through these first few games quite quickly, just so you can have your moment. But I'd just like to say, in Stormers' defence, they played till the last minutes.
Yeah,
they got some points on the board in the last few minutes. But you can say your piece.
Actually, I'm not going to say too much about it. Going into this, we actually thought that this would be the game the Stormers could win against the Lions. The Lions were not very good for the 3 matches preceding this one. Having lost overseas to the Jaguars, they lost again to the Blues preceding that. And I think there was another match that they didn't do very well in as well. So Lions down, so down on confidence. Their general play was very, very bad going into this. Stormers also having the same problems, but Stormers forwards were dominated again for a second week, because that's pretty much how the Lions won it.
Yeah.
The Stormers made too many errors in judgment. I mean, the first try that the Lions scored was against the runner played off the Stormers' error.
53 seconds into the game.
So Mbani, I think his name is Tankwe scored 3 tries in 13 minutes. I think it's the fastest hat trick in Super Rugby.
And he scored a 4th try later on in the game.
He scored a 4th try, so he's definitely I think he's definitely one to who we would see on the left wing with Janche, our Springbok team. But Stormers were not very, very good at the scrums, which is something that you'd usually see they dominated in. I mean, they engaged too early at 1 or 2 stages. They just the Stormers didn't just feel like the team
they weren't there.
That beat the Blues and Reds. They weren't there, and it showed that they weren't there. Good on them for coming back towards the end of the second half, but by that stage it was too late. Lions definitely deserved winners. A team that was lacking in confidence, all of a sudden now
has a
ton of confidence. They have a bye, and then they start their overseas tour. So hopefully the Lions can actually turn around the overseas poor showings that the other South African teams have had.
And I mean, the Stormers also go into the next round with a bye,
which is much needed, considering they played for 9 weeks in a row.
So hopefully that they can get their act together and sort it out.
Pretty much.
Then the final game, the Jaguares versus the Crusaders. Again, much like the Sunwolves Waratahs game, we knew which direction it was going to go.
Yep.
It was just about how much the Crusaders were going to win by, and they won by 26 points. So it was a very good running rugby from them. But
Jaguars did have some really good running moments as well. They weren't shying away from the physical game at all. In terms of player-wise, I think the Jaguars do end up playing a little too loose, which is how the New Zealand teams turned it against them and got some really, really easy tries against the Jaguars. Also, I think the refereeing in this match was also a bit below par, but we'll get to that in our referee ratings.
Yeah, so basically that's it for the reviews, so let's jump right into the ref ratings.
Okay, so Hurricanes versus Sharks. As Nick said here, Nick Berry was a little bit heavy-handed on the Sharks at time.
He really loved that whistle.
So a high-scoring game that was prone to a lot of stop-starts. It's actually surprising that we had a high-scoring game to begin with. But Nick Berry overall, a little bit heavy-handed, a little bit inconsistent. So 6 out of 10.
6. Then Angus Gardner, Paul Williams, Ben O'Keefe. I'm just going to say pretty good games from all of them. Nothing really to actually comment on. I mean, there's always
well-controlled games,
one or two errors, but every ref does that. So
well-controlled games, consistent overall. I think maybe solid 7 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you there. 7 or 8 out of 10. Maybe let's just round it off to say 7.5.
7.5 out of 10.
Yaku Paper didn't have a bad game in my opinion. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the greatest game to ref.
No. Not at all.
I mean, he had a lot of running. He had to run quite a bit behind the Stormers' posts, but
I think he had a good game overall. I mean, I can't fault the ref for my team's woes. So anyway, I think
you call yourself South African. That is a South African tradition. It's always the ref's fault if your team doesn't win.
Anyway, 7 out of 10 for Yaku.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And then of course our favourite ref.
Yeah, I mean. 1, he missed a lot of forward passes leading up to tries. 2, the first Crusaders try had like 3 knock-ons in it, and even though the TMO added to his incompetence, was absolutely fantastic. I mean, Marius van der Westhuizen, I don't think he deserves higher than a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, again, poor showing from him.
Yeah, and not a very. I mean, in terms of the South African referees, we've generally had strong showings. I honestly don't understand why we keep putting him out every week.
Yeah. So that's our ref rating. So decided to do just a little segment quickly, like a couple of minutes, on discipline in rugby. And what do we mean by discipline? So obviously there's a good old saying, I could get this wrong, but rugby's played by hooligans, supported by gentlemen, where soccer's played by gentlemen and supported by hooligans.
Very much.
So if it's being played by hooligans, how do you control them? So basically, you got your penalties. So you got your free kick, which we explained in a previous video, is kind of just like
it's a short arm penalty.
Short arm. Much like a free kick in soccer, you don't really get too much of an advantage really with it. Then you get your penalties. Now your penalties are for your more serious infringements, your deliberate fouls, your high tackles, your tackling in the air.
So deliberate fouls include high tackles. So anything where the player gets tackled above the shoulder line is considered a high tackle. There's also tripping. It's not very common in rugby, but you're not allowed to tackle the player with your feet. Another one is playing the player off the ground. So you can't tackle a player and then from the ground go and tackle another player. You're generally not allowed to do that.
Basically, if you're on the ground, you're not allowed to play.
You're not allowed to play. Another common one is not entering through the gate. So basically, I'm there to support my player. If I come in from the side of the ruck, it means I'm not going from the back. And going into the side is a penalisable offence. You're not allowed to do that. Same with diving, or sealing off as we like to call it, is where you go off your feet when you go and protect your player.
The long and short of it is that generally if you interfere with play and the flow of the game, you can get a penalty, as well as potential harm to other players.
Yeah. Another one that you get penalised for, very dangerous, is tackling a player in the air. So someone goes up in the air, you need to let him land first before you're even allowed to touch him.
So what does it mean if you have one of these more serious infringements? Well, they're cards. So much like soccer, they're cards, but the difference is a yellow card in soccer is a warning. In rugby, you get warned, and if you get a yellow card after that,
you're sent off.
You're off the field for 10 minutes. You go sit in the naughty corner or the sin bin. My fiance was very amused to find out that was actually its name. She had a good chuckle. And then if it's an even more serious offence,
then it's a red
card, and that's same like soccer, off the field, cheers, see you.
Yeah, you're off for the rest of the game.
And then you have to face a judicial committee. And that judicial committee, often called the Citing Commission, is responsible to determine whether it's a one-match ban. It's always minimum one-match ban if there's a red card, and if it needs to be anything more than that.
More dangerous offences like no arm tackles, especially to the neck and head area, generally get longer suspensions. The Reds were on the receiving end of that with their captain at the beginning of the series, where he connected and you got a 4-week ban for that. So more dangerous play, generally a longer suspension.
Now the Citing Commission also has this added role where they can, let's say something happens on the field and the ref doesn't pick up on it, or the ref's handling of it isn't adequate. The Citing Commission can step in and actually be like, actually this should be a 4-week ban. It wasn't picked up, so there's your ban. So that's kind of like how disciplining works in rugby and how things move forward. So let's just jump into our previews quickly. So round 9.
Yeah, it actually looks like a shorter weekend coming up.
Yeah, another 6-game week, much like this last week.
Starting with the New Zealand derby that I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to this one as well. Hurricanes vs Chiefs.
Yeah, they're going to be an absolute blinder. I'm pretty sure this is going to be high paced, highly physical. I think this is going to be possibly the match of the weekend. I am going to say Hurricanes purely because they're at home and they came from behind to beat the Sharks.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Sunwolves vs Blues. This could be the Blues' chance.
It is the Blues' chance, and possibly their only chance, to be quite honest.
It could also be the Sunwolves' chance.
Yeah, could go either way.
They beat the Blues last year, so...
so let's see. I mean, the Sunwolves are playing at home, but Blues have been playing well. They've just been on the unfortunate end of the results. They got some really, really good, strong players. The Sunwolves playing good, enterprising rugby. I'd like to see them beat a New Zealand opposition, but I think the Blues, based on the opposition that they played, are going to be stronger. So them by 14.
Rebels vs Jaguares in Melbourne. I rate the Rebels of playing fantastic rugby, the best they've played since their inception. And I think they can actually beat the Jaguares, and possibly by a decent amount. So I have it down by 10. Yeah,
Rebels are playing at home. I don't think the Jaguares are going to upset this apple cart.
Apple cart. Okay.
I could say cabbage.
Even both of those are weird. Okay. Highlanders versus Brumbies. I guess this is a no-brainer in Dunedin as well. It's Highlanders. It's just a question of how much they're going to win by, and we conservatively have said 9 points.
Highlanders also coming off a bye this week. So one, they were unbeaten up to a few weeks ago. They're playing really, really good rugby, both with the forwards and the backs. I mean, even though the Brumbies came off a really good win against the Reds, the Highlanders, I think, are going to be too strong, especially playing at home.
Yep. And then we got an Australian derby.
Yeah,
Waratahs versus the Reds. Again, Waratahs are playing good rugby right now. They just showed that with their win over the Sunwolves, and the previous week before that they had a really good game as well. Whereas the Reds, on the other hand, seem to be on a downward slope after their massive loss to the Brumbies. So Waratahs at home in Sydney, it's going to be the Waratahs by around 7 points.
And then the final game of the week, probably the only South African derby and the only South African game overall for the weekend, and it's going to be the Sharks versus the Bulls.
Yeah, that's a big rivalry game, very traditional game in South African rugby. You know, you and I disagreed on this one.
Yeah, we did.
I rate the Sharks are going to be a bit tired after coming back from New Zealand. They're going to be a bit bruised after that Hurricanes game that was very physical. Whereas the Bulls have just come off a bye. They're a bit rested, although I do acknowledge that a bye can destroy momentum, especially after the good win against Stormers. So I think this is a game that Rassie Erasmus is going to be watching very closely.
Again,
see what happens, who's performing. And the Sharks are at home, and they really do thrive at
the Shark Tank?
Johnson's Kings Park. Johnson works where Kings Park, I think that's the new name.
Let's just call it Kings Park.
Or
the Shark Tank, because that's essentially what it is.
So essentially, you've put down Sharks by 3. I said Bulls by 3, but you know what? We'll give it to the Sharks just because they're at home.
Yeah, and they've been playing good rugby. I mean, they're playing with momentum right now. So
it took them to face their toughest opposition for them to actually play rugby.
Yeah. So look, it's there for the Sharks to win. They need to get their season back on track, and I think this is the way to do it.
But you know what? Knowing the Sharks, they're going to be like, it's South African opposition. Let's go back to our conservative game style.
Probably, or maybe they've learnt their lessons and figured, hey, we've got a backline. I mean, Lukania Holmes scored 2 tries this past weekend, and
so we can only hope. So that's our predictions for the coming week. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment below on things you want to see, things you want us to talk about.
And please like and subscribe.
So and also subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to get notified when we have new videos out. Again, apologies for the editing issue in the last clip. I edited my first video on our very first episode, so I'm still learning. Okay? Alright.
Yeah, thank you very much and have a good weekend, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.